All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dave and Michelle from NView.
Hi.
And today we've got with us Deepa Kendall and Lisa Staff. And we're going to learn some great things around Instagram and how you can elevate your brand using Instagram. Lots of great material you're going to love here in the next hour. And I know Devo's been working with NView for many years, and Lisa's an amazing photographer. As you've seen on their bios, they've got some great backgrounds, some really deep experience in business and photography. And we're going to turn it over to Lisa and Devo and let them take it away. And thank you guys for agreeing to share all your wisdom with the NView crew.
We hope it's wisdom.
All right, so thank you, Michelle. Yeah, thank you for that fantastic intro, and thank you for inviting us to be part of this. This is fantastic. So we've been doing this show on the road in terms of a physical workshop. This is actually our first online workshop we've ever done. So for everyone who's on, apologies for any sort of technical kinks. I promise that we'll do our best to kind of associate. I see a lot of comments coming in.
From North Carolina.
So we'll try to respond to those as well. So one of the things, for whatever reason, Michelle and Dave, we still can't see when we toggle back and forth. So what we'll do is we'll go through each section, we'll pause it, go back and answer any questions that we can, and then proceed forward. Does that sound like a good plan? All right, so I'm going to jump over to our presentation that we have prepared for everyone today. Just kind of to start things off, just to introduce who we are and how we kind of got into the game of Instagram and what just kind of our background. So I am a photographer. I own a photography studio in Charlotte. I've been in business for almost 13 years now. Lisa is a photographer as well. Although we don't call ourselves photographers, we have a photography business. You've been in business for almost 20 years now, is that correct? Longer than that.
It doesn't sound good to say longer than that. So
yeah, so we actually, funny story, we actually met on Instagram. And this was almost 3 years ago. And so it's one of the compelling elements of what Instagram does for us in terms of why we encourage people to play the Instagram game. And we're going to kind of just walk you through a little bit of our background and why we use Instagram. The workshop has us slated to talk about Instagram, setting up your profile, strategic content planning, branding your unique message, and all those things you can see on the screen. We're going to talk a little bit about everything. We're not going to necessarily read the screens. So if you want to associate what we're saying with what's visually up on board, that's fantastic. So for me, I got on Instagram almost 3 years ago now. I've been playing around with Instagram. And in the beginning, I was really just throwing darts at it. I've kind of always been a private individual. I never really understood the whole ideation around living vicariously through other people's lives. Social media was something that was kind of poo-poo for me. Even though I was a photographer, I really kind of resorted to more the physical networking space. And I know you had kind of a different pathway. Tell us just kind of early on what your Instagram experience was.
So I've been a photographer for 30 years, and things have changed a lot. And it used to be that you just had your static website, and that was it. And if you built it, they will come, hopefully. Instagram a few years ago, yes, it's been around for a while, but it was not as popular. And I was in a situation in my life where I needed to make a name for myself in my photography business. So there were a lot of naysayers at the time that were like, oh, you're going to waste your time. You know, it's a flash in the pan. Don't get involved in it. So I just started testing it out. And I think as a photographer, we're visual people. So this platform being visual and not doing Facebook where, yes, you can, relate to your mom and dad and all those people on it. But this just seemed a better fit. So I just started on that, and that's where it began.
Yeah, so early on, Instagram's primary premises, it wasn't owned by Facebook. If you don't know that, Facebook now owns Instagram. But originally they were two separate entities, and Instagram was catering originally more to the artistic, more to the aesthetic market, and it was an older market of people who weren't necessarily just putting all of their gossip and all of their drama like a lot of people do on Facebook. And so it appealed more to me because I never really was a Facebook adopter. And so I started playing around with Instagram. And again, like I said, I was just posting photographs on my page. I thought, okay, I'm a photographer. I shoot weddings. I shoot different types of photography. So all I'm going to do is just dump my content on Instagram. And I wasn't getting any traction. I was just one of several 100,000 people at the time that were actually using Instagram. And it wasn't until I started doing all the things that we're going to share with you today that I actually started seeing traction with my Instagram account about a year ago. And fast forward to today, I don't like the term. It makes me feel a little bit narcissistic, but we're now considered somewhat influencers. And I personally use Instagram, as does Lisa, to generate about 40% of my revenue now. I have been picked up by several brands all through Instagram where I do promotional work, I wear outfits, etc. I get free ice cream in one of my promotions, which is pretty cool. But I now use my Instagram for a completely different purpose. It's now a combination of cathartic journal / these are the pillars of my life, visual diary, and promotional content that talks a little bit about my business, who I am as a person, what really matters to me, what resonates with me. And we're going to kind of go through, that's going to kind of set the theme for kind of what this workshop's all about, and how we use Instagram today beneficially for our business. And I'd like to just stop for a second and just point out, we don't consider ourselves necessarily Instagram experts in terms of this is exactly how you should do it, this is the only way to do it. Instagram, like anything else in running your business, it's a tool that can be used with efficacy and impact to help your business grow, to help you connect with people. In my case, help you meet a bunch of different people who are not in my immediate space. Hence meeting Lisa, who lived 4.5 hours away from me, and now fast forward 3 years later, and we are business partners together, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So what we're going to share with you are tools that we use for success.
Yeah, things that we've streamlined. That there's been some trial and error, and I think initially when I started up my Instagram, I was just throwing. You could probably scroll back. Don't scroll back. But you can see that I was like just throwing on wedding pictures. Everything was weddings, weddings, weddings. But as photographers, we might have our own niche and there might be more to us, and we might want to retain that business, those clients that we make, whether we start out doing an engagement shot or maybe senior portraits, and then there's engagements, and then there's weddings, and then there's family. Like we want to retain those clients. So there's a lot more than just posting one thing and having a strategy to it. Has made all the difference for us. And we get a lot of DMs from clients that find us there. And I think too, I'm gonna ramble here for a second. Whether you use Instagram, the point is that your clients are using it. So it's just another source for you to communicate with them, right?
Yeah, it is. Again, just to reiterate what I said, it is one piece of arsenal in our digital asset library that we utilize to generate e-commerce, that we utilize for workshops, for things that are going on in our lives. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And what we encourage everyone, and everyone we train on this, because we do consulting for Instagram as part of our other business, is that find your niche, find your value proposition, understand what your pillars of content are, whether you're a photographer, whether you're a DJ, whether you're an artist, whatever you are. Instagram has given you a platform, a relatively inexpensive platform, to broadcast your message, or your why, as people are fond of saying now. Your why are you in business? What is it that makes you different from, I hail from Charlotte, North Carolina now, and in that city alone, there are probably 25,000 photographers. Lisa is in a smaller market, but even here on the island in Hilton Head, she probably has several hundred, 400, 500 different photographers. And so what makes her different? Her photography is fantastic, but what we have found with Instagram is that it has allowed us to fine tune and hone our niche in terms of who our tribe members are, who our avatar is. You'll hear us use the word avatar over and over, and our avatar is,
and then not just our community for business, but our community with other professionals. It's created more of a collaborative, not as secretive, more of a sharing experience within the community of other photographers or other people that are in our same niche.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point, and we won't go into too many details on that, but how many times as a photographer, and I know I'm guilty as charged early in my career, and we'll actually get to the meat and potatoes in a second, but early in my career, I was like, I'm a photographer, I don't want to share any of my trade secrets with anybody. I figured out a way to do something really well, I'm not going to share that. And I kept myself isolated on an island, and it wasn't until I actually
lonely business being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, you were Jack and Jane of all trades, and it wasn't until I realized that I actually needed to get my space out there, my work out there, that somebody else might be able to have insights or value to it. And when I started understanding the concept of community collaboration over competition and actually engaging with other photographers, which is why I first engaged with Lisa 3 years ago.
It would be like DMing back and forth. How do you price in this situation? Or what are you doing for this? And it was so resourceful.
And so back to Instagram, where we're tying that all in, is had I not had a tool like that, a small-time photographer like myself would have never had the opportunity to not only meet Lisa, but the hundreds and hundreds of other people that I have met through this business of a photographer now to actually launch my new business. So Michelle said that they can't hear us very well. Man, I feel like I'm yelling.
One more thing, I think, unless everyone else is a lot better than I am, I don't upgrade or update my website very often. I think at the beginning of the year, we're all on it and we're all like trying to update everything. But this is up to date on a daily basis. Your Instagram feed is you, what you're doing right now. It's just more realistic, it's more authentic, and people feel that they can connect with you more than a website. It's not as cold, not as static.
Yeah, there's a whole different strategy around how you can connect your web presence and your other digital assets, whether it's your other social media channels, with your Instagram strategy, and that's a bit different conversation. But we use our websites as more of a funnel. We direct people through Instagram and other digital channels to our website so that we can collect information for our email funnels, and we'll go into that differently later this time. So I guess there's a lot of different, I'm not really sure how to fix the sound. Apparently there's some problems with it. We're actually using some pretty high-end mics here, so I'm not really sure what else to do. Maybe, I don't know. All right, so we're gonna jump into the slides, perhaps as we walk through the slides. Maybe our voices will make more sense. Okay, so just some real quick, fun, fast facts about the gram, which here in the biz we call it the gram. So,
or IG.
Yeah, IG. So Instagram, if you didn't know, it's the second most downloaded free app on all of the App Store. And so what that tells me is there's a lot of people using it. There's a lot more people that are gonna use it. And it is alive and well, because I know there's some stories out on the street that Instagram is fading into the dark because of TikTok. That's a different workshop. It's not fading. It's still alive and well.
And we will probably never do a workshop on TikTok.
I will not dance. All right, there are more than 40 billion photos have been shared on the app. That's a ridiculous number, 40 billion, not million. There are approximately 100 million photos that are uploaded every 24 hours. These stats, again, there's 600 different data points that you can pull out for the gram. These are the ones that are the most compelling for me. And the picture that they paint for me when I look at this as a business owner, because I'm a data nerd, is that number, if you were to look at a pie chart or a trend chart, that number has significantly scaled over the last 5 years, and there has never been a drop-off. The number of users, the number of photographs, the number of time that is spent on it. That 28 minutes each visit used to be 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes each visit 5 years ago, and that number has slowly ascended over the last 5 years. So the number, since you were all, I'm assuming you're all small business owners, is that last bullet point, 75% of businesses are using Instagram in 2020 for marketing, for PR, for influencers, for all sorts of different reasons. And what that tells me is that if you're a B2B seller, or if you're a B2C seller, like we both of our businesses are, that element, that fact alone, and that number has also continued to rise, is reason enough for me to have some sort of a presence on Instagram.
And I think too, we were talking before about when you're looking at 100 million photos are uploaded every 24 hours, there's still room for us. We can still find our own tribe in there. We're not gonna get lost in there if we do it strategically.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And so that's some of the keynotes of what we're going to talk about today. There are a massive number of people on Instagram. That is true. But I'm not trying to speak to 7 billion people. I'm not even trying to speak to several 100,000 perhaps. I'm trying to speak to a very targeted niche of people that value my service, my value proposition. And I encourage you, as you step into this world, if you're new or if you're still struggling or trying to figure out what Instagram's purpose is to have a very specific value proposition on on who you are as a business owner and what you want the gram to do for you, what sort of message, what sort of brand do you actually want to get across. And the sooner you can do that, the sooner you can fine-tune your message and then fine-tune your strategy on how you speak to those people. Because as you know, the old adage goes, if you're trying to speak to everybody, you're speaking to no one because your sound just gets muffled.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've kind of talked a little bit about why we do Instagram, so I won't kind of go into too many details on it, but I use it for a variety of reasons. I use it for e-commerce. I use it as a sales funnel to drive people to my blog or to my podcast. We started a new joint podcast together, which gets launched officially next week. And so we'll use that to drive people to listen to our podcast. We use it for influencer, for promotional deals, for our blog, whenever we talk about our blog. So for me, my Instagram is a platform to segregate all sorts of my other marketing strategies off into the bandwidth of the digital world. Anything else you want to add to that piece?
No, that's good.
Okay, so we just kind of went over real high-low. We're pretty close to the mic, Larry. I don't know what else we can possibly do without putting it on our mouths. So I'm not really sure what else to do. So they keep saying the sound is awful. Let's pause there. Are there any questions? Sorry, Larry. Are there any specific questions that people have real quickly on why we use the gram before we jump into the next section? All right, cool.
Hello.
All right.
Can you answer for me how long you actually spend daily on Instagram? Because that one fact that we went by was like the average person is spending 28 minutes on Instagram a day. That's not including teenagers that spend all day on Instagram or Snapchat.
Yeah, so I've actually set up a timer for my Instagram usage because sometimes I get carried away and I'll start scrolling through data and stuff. But on a daily basis, I start my day really early in the morning, around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. I spend 1 hour every morning just kind of making sure that my content is lined up, that it's going to be posting at the strategic time that I want it to post. I go through and I curate whatever it is that I need to do. I go out and I comment and I do all my different strategy, which we're about to go over. But I spend 1 hour every morning on Instagram just to get my day started.
Okay.
And that doesn't include what I do later on throughout the day in terms of responding to comments and that sort of stuff. And you're about the same?
About the same.
Okay. All right, so again, we're not going to read word for word what Instagram, some of the data around it, and I think we're going to share this with everybody after the fact so you'll be able to read this yourself. But we invest in Instagram for a variety of reasons. It generates revenue for us. It helps us. We're launching a new series of retreats and workshops this summer, and we'll be using Instagram to proliferate data across that and to get people registered and all that sort of stuff. All right, so the first piece of Instagram, and arguably one of the more important elements, is the profile in of itself. So can you kind of take people through what the Instagram profile is, its importance, all the different elements of it, so that everyone understands the different key parameters of it?
So I'll just touch on a few things and then you'll fill in all the things that I missed. So believe it or not, people actually look at your profile while they're scrolling through, and I do it all the time. If I see something that's interesting, then I click back to the profile and I look at it. And if I'm looking at that 9 grid, 12 grid, or scrolling through there, and I'm seeing things that I like, I'm going to follow it. If I'm looking at the bio in the top, that profile in the top, and it's a mess, it's unclear, I can't figure out what the person actually does or any of the information in there, I'm not going to follow them either. So you're going to need a good profile picture, clear, showing your vibe, whether it's an actual photo or it's your branding in there. You need to have it in there. You need to let people know what you actually do. You can see through mine, I'm a photographer. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and it's clear and concise. You're gonna have in there as well some highlights in there across the bottom, and we'll talk a little bit more about highlights, but you're gonna wanna put as well in there, the only clickable link that you can get in Instagram is right in your bio. So whether it's just your website or whether it's something that's changing on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, we put in a lot of our blogs or anything else that's coming up. So almost like a dangling carrot that's hanging there as well for people to click back to our site. Because ultimately, you want to be able to pull them back to your site as well.
Yeah, so I'd like to just elaborate on a couple of things that Lisa touched on. So your image profile photograph, that can also be your logo if that's the direction of your strategy. I know a lot of companies tend to use logos. My feedback on that is if you're a small-time business and you're a solopreneur, or even if you have a few small people working for you, you want to generally put in that profile picture what is most symbolic of your business. And that might be your photograph, that might be your logo. For me, it's a photograph. For Lisa, it's photograph, because not only do we sell photography, but we're also selling us. In essence, we sell our ability to go out and cross-promote products for other companies, for other influence-related industries and that sort of stuff. And so for me, I want people to see my image in my photograph.
And even in a photography aspect for our business, people like to recognize who we are and who they're going to be seeing. So a lot of what we put onto our Instagram seems personal, but there's a strategy behind it too.
Okay, so again, Lisa had talked about, think about back in the old days, and I don't know how many people watch television. I don't watch much TV, but think about when you do sit down and watch TV and you're basically scrolling or flipping through the innumerable number of television channels that offer just garbage. And then you finally stop at something, whatever that might be. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's the news, but you kind of have your go-to channels, right? And there's something about that channel that resonated with you, that kind of stuck to you, that makes you want to watch it again and again, I'm assuming. Instagram profiles are the same way. So you're thumbing through the data and something catches your eye, whether it's a pretty picture, whether it's maybe it's a photograph of somebody that caught your eye in terms of some particular reason. And then you stop for a second and you quickly read what it is they do. And if it's not clearly spelled out, then you move on to the next one. You thumb right through. So this piece here is your virtual calling card in the Instagram world. And all of these features down here, we'll talk a little bit about them, but these are called your highlights, and we'll talk about what they do. This here is your profile. This is your basic high-level data that shows how many followers you have, how many people you're following, how many posts you've done, etc. And then just kind of a small snapshot of who you are, what you are, and why you are. So I'm just going to stop there for a second. I see a couple of questions coming through, and I'll try to go ahead.
Say something too. So, and again, you may not look at the profiles yourself. That might not be the way you go through Instagram, but most people do. And if you go through your insights, you can see actually how many people not just liked your posts, but how many people actually went further and went into your profile. So it does make a difference.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into the data analysis too much in this workshop, because we use data. It's one of the more important elements of what I do when I start my monthly plan and my weekly plan. I actually go back through and look at literally everything. So I'm going to answer a couple of the questions here. Do we have separate IG pages for each niche? Absolutely not. What we do is we set up pillars of content, which we're going to go through in one of these slides. The pillars are who we are, what we are, why we do business, who the type of people we're necessarily looking for, what we do in our personal life, etc. I used to have 3 separate Instagram pages.
Too much.
And not only is it a time suck to try to manage those pages, but because I'm so strategic about how I post in my Instagram and what I use it as an impact for my business, my bottom line, that I decided to morph everything into one and talk a little bit more about who I am and what I do and how I do it. I do a lot of behind the scenes videos. You'll see we're huge on our behind the scenes content. We actually have a videographer. Sometimes it's each other for the two of us when we're working together, but we actually have our own personal videography assistant that follows us around everywhere we go. And we take, well, if we're doing it for each other. Not everyone. But we take behind the scenes content of every photo shoot, every business transaction, meetings, all that sort of stuff, and then we use that content for something in our strategy. Do we use an auto poster? So there's a couple of different ways. I don't personally use an auto poster for my Instagram. We do use auto posters for our overall strategy, because keep in mind, we're posting to our blogs, we're posting to Facebook, we're posting to Pinterest, we're posting to Twitter. So we have other different pieces, and there's a variety of different tools out there that we utilize. But for me personally, and Lisa as well, we post directly from our Instagram, and I'm actually personally responsible for all the content that goes in, and then we work with our staff to help us.
And I think too, because we're visual people, like if you have an app like Planoly, it's nice to, and we'll talk about the strategy behind it, but putting those photos in kind of arranging them in the way that you want to see them, where it's visually appealing, and then going from there. And yes, it's a business profile. We have business profiles because we have so many analytics on there that we can go through and we can see what's working and what's not working. And a lot of times you're surprised or you're disappointed because that one photograph that you thought was the best photograph and, you know, technically is incredible, nobody liked it, but they liked something else that you did and it kind of resonated more with people. So we will look at those analytics. And there's still times that I post what I like to post, even though it's, you know, it's not going to get as many likes because, you know, I like the person I was shooting or the experience I had, and it looks good in my grid.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in terms of the analytics, but I would like to encourage people to move away from the number of likes per photos and whatnot, and really just focus on having a really good strategy, having really good content, and having a real directed purpose around what you put on the Instagram. The likes, the engagements, if you're doing everything well and strategically, all of that stuff will follow. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Just one more point on the profile, on the business account versus the personal. I would say, I would turn that back around and say, what's your purpose for being on Instagram? Is this just something that you're doing as a hobby and a fancy because you want to post pretty pictures? Or are you doing this for a purpose to grow your Instagram for revenue or to connect with more people? And if you're doing it for a business-based purpose, I'll absolutely switch to it a business.
Okay, I'm kind of curious as to how many people out there as well can actually see when they're going on someone's feed how many likes they got on a photo, because I can't see that anymore. In the last 2 months, I've had that taken away. So when I'm looking at somebody's image, I'm just looking at their image and deciding if I like it. I'm not liking it based on, oh, they've got like 500 likes on it.
Yeah, here's the deal. Okay, so Instagram is a tool that can be used as one piece of your business plan, okay? And what I encourage everyone is if you can get away from looking at everyone else's content in terms of I have to keep up with them, or why didn't I get that many likes, or why didn't this photo resonate? Man, I consider myself a really good photographer, and I'll post something that I think is this prolific photograph that took all of this thought and all of this skill and talent that a lot of other beginner photographers couldn't do, and it'll get like 100 people look at it. And I'm like, why? And it wasn't until I stepped away from that space of focusing on the vanity metrics, as Anisha just commented on, that I realized that, you know what, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to focus on my work. I'm going to focus on finding the people that really resonate, that I resonate with. I'm going to connect with them, and I'm going to continue down that path. And as soon as I realized that a year ago and really started just focusing on what I was doing and staying in my lane of expertise and being collaborative and connective and community-based and doing all the different things that I'm doing now, that's when I really started to see my Instagram blow up.
Absolutely. So then you don't have that problem. Like, am I light and airy this week, or am I dark and dramatic? You just do what you do. And there's a reason why people will follow you and hire you, because you do something differently than anyone else does.
Yeah, so that's a good point as well. So again, once you sit down and you really start thinking about who you are and what you want to sell or what you want to profess or what messages that you want to put on your gram, you'll start to realize that you might be a darker person or a lighter person. You might like lighter-based photos, or you might like, if you look at my feed, I do verticals, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. And it took me a while to get to that space. If you scroll down to the bottom of my feed, you'll see a completely different look. And right now I'm playing with this format. It seems to resonate well with people. It's visually eye-catching, and it makes people stop and look at my data. And when people are stopping and looking at my data, then they're stopping and looking at my images, and then they're starting to realize, hey, there's actually some real content here. I'm going to start being a repeat visitor, so they start following me. They turn on notifications so that they can see when I post, and on and on and on and on again. So we put a few different pieces.
It's a long journey. It's not a quick sell.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant to say. This is the long game. You're not going to have instant overnight success. You have to play by Instagram's rules. Be unique in your value proposition and what you bring to the table, but you have to play by the rules of Instagram, which we're about to go into. So here's just kind of a recap of the profiles. Again, I'm not going to go through. We kind of talked about all of this. We recommend being public, not private. We recommend being a business page, and there's a variety of reasons why, just because we've already 26 minutes in. All right, so we talked about Instagram profiles. They need to be informative, friendly. We talked about the links. Let's move into the next space here. All right.
strategy.
You want to talk about strategy first?
Can we go to next? So we're talking about creating your profile pillars to define your strategy. And it's just like your business strategy. Your Instagram has to follow your business strategy. And just like I said in the beginning, I was just posting wedding pictures, weddings, because as photographers, we know, hey, we can cash in on some weddings and that's fantastic. But what happens when that bride and groom is done? Well, there's other things that you can offer them. So we have a strategy. We have content. We have pillars of content for our business. Our pillars are different. There's some things that overlap and that are the same, and there's other things that are different. And those pillars can change as your business strategy changes. My pillars may have been different. They were different 6 months ago than they are now. As I'm kind of thinking about what I'm doing right now and what I want to do, my pillars are changing. So that reflects on what I'm posting in my 9 grid and my 12 grid and whatever people are seeing as soon as they open up my feed, those things are going to be all in there. So I might have one wedding picture. I might have something of seniors. I might have a family shot in there. I might have something of travel. I might have something where we were doing an influencer, something with design. Like there's all of those pillars are in there, and your pillars are different. I'm older than him, apparently, so I might be reaching out to women in my age group that I want to reach out to. This is a young buck here, and he's doing things maybe with fitness and all of that as well. So,
yeah. So here's how we create pillars, and this is what I highly recommend to you. I know that not a lot of people know what this is anymore, but actually get a notebook, write down with a piece of pen and paper. Write down what. Am I allowed to curse in these conferences? Write down what you give a damn about. Okay. Write down the things that really matter to you. Maybe you're a pet lover. Maybe you rescue animals on the side. Or maybe you're a painter as well as a photographer. Maybe you do DJ work, but also on the side you run a catering business, or you help elderly people on the weekends, or maybe you feed homeless people with your kids. There's a bazillion different things that you care about. Find the things that you really care about and just make a really long list. And then go through your list and start ranking them in terms of where they matter to you in terms of importance. So my list started off with like 100 different things that I care about. I finally dwindled and narrowed that down. I have 9 pillars that I'm currently talking about in my life, whether that's I'm writing a book, whether that's I love to travel. I have made a goal this year that I'm going to travel to 6 different countries. I've already hit 2 before this year expires. We're headed to Italy in a week. So that's important to me. So you'll see a lot of content on my feed. I know. So you'll see a lot of content on there about my travel. I'm a single dad. I have 2 young daughters. I talk a lot about my family. So that's just 3 of my 9. And you'll see everywhere in my feed, I don't air grievances. I don't talk about stuff that I'm troubled with necessarily. What I do is I try to provide insights, inspirational content. I try to find something that somebody else might read. I've had people literally DM me and say, that post you did last night literally saved my life. And for me, that gives me goosebumps to think about that I was able to meet somebody halfway across the world virtually and have an impact on their life. And truthfully, for me, Instagram is that important in terms of that I can have that sort of an impact. It's not just for commerce for me. It's my cathartic journal, if you will. And it allows me to have a voice that I might not have access to had I not had this platform.
And sorry, there's a comment there. Yes, I use those pillars on my blog posts as well. So I'm not just covering weddings. I think my last one was weddings, but there's travel. We just were asked to review 3 restaurants. So we will kind of pop them in throughout, probably over the next couple of months, kind of put those into our blog posts as well. So yes, all of those things go into our blog post as well.
So Cassandra, or Dana, I'm sorry, Dana asked the question that Lisa just answered. For me, my content, my digital asset strategy is what I call it. I just like to sound important saying that. My digital asset strategy is kind of circuitous. It follows a loop that leads everybody back to some sort of a way to connect with me. So what I typically do is what I blog about will be shared on my social media. And then my social media will give people a call to action, and I rotate in and out landing pages on my website to do different purposes. Does that make sense? And so I use all of them as part of a cogent strategy. Nothing is one-off. Everything is very well thought out before I create it.
Okay, there's 2 other questions here I think we should answer. Do you focus on things that resonate with your audience that are outside of the pillars?
No, I focus on things that are important to me, right? So
So there's things that I can be an expert on in my own little way. Not that I'm really an expert. So I don't speak on things that I don't know anything about, or that the people that I'm trying to attract are not going to be as interested in. So I'm not going to talk about what are those workouts that everybody's doing where they're throwing tires?
CrossFit?
CrossFit. I'm not going to talk about CrossFit. I know nothing about it, and you will never see me doing CrossFit, so that's never going to be in my posts.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Here's what I would say just to kind of drive that point home. And I don't know how many people, I'm assuming a lot of the people on this call are photographers. So if everybody could wave their magic wand, you would want the perfect client, people that value your work, that value your experience, that value working with you and all those sorts of things. And the only way to find those people is if you stick to your lane, the things that you're really good at, the things that you really care about, the type of photography that you absolutely love. And the more you speak about that and talk about that and show that, the more people who are also interested in that, your ideal avatar, are going to start slowly coming your way. It's like fish in the water, right? Do you want to be a big fish in a little pond, or do you want to be a little fish in a big pond? And so you just have to decide, like, what's your purpose?
And speaking in your own voice. There's another question here. How important do you think that blog posts are?
You're going to hear a variety of people say this. For me, blog posts are critical because it allows me to continually put out content onto the web space for SEO. And my SEO is critical to me because it allows me to show up in rankings in my markets that I want to show up in. So we blog. I personally blog 4 times a month.
Me too.
And we have hired a writer to help us write our blog posts. We'll sit down in our strategy meetings and come up with our themes for the month or our themes for the week, or we'll look at all of our calendars and see what we have going on, promotions, weddings, travel, and that goes in how we dump into our content.
Influencer marketing, collaborations, all of that goes in there. And things that we want to do, like these, more travel. We want to do more travel, so we'll put more travel blogs in there so we get that opportunity. So it's also, get that vision board out there and figure out what you want to do and make it happen.
Cassandra, so again, like I touched on in the beginning of the call, everybody has a different strategy. This is what works for us. This is what we have found to be effective. I encourage you to figure out what works for you. For me personally, like Lisa said, I'm not going to talk about crocheting if I don't know a damn thing about it. But I am going to talk about fitness because I'm fit. It's a big priority in my life. I love to cook, so you'll see me talking about cooking. I love to travel. And I have found that the more I refined my niche of what I really liked, the better clients I started getting. Does that make sense? So that's all I'll say about that.
I think as well, honestly, and again, talking about being a photographer, I think a lot of us, we become complacent about what we do and we don't think it's a big deal, but other people think it's a big deal and other people think we're intimidating. So the more that we can put out that shows that, hey, when you have an experience with us, you're going to have an experience. You're going to be relaxed. We're going to have fun. We've already kind of know a little bit about you, so it's not going to be like a first date. We're just going to have fun.
Case in point, we were filming last week and the month before that, Condoleezza Rice and Sanjay Gupta for respective projects here on the island. And I was doing video for Lisa while Lisa was doing photography and content creation for the respective conferences. I cannot tell you how many times we walked into this conference room filled with almost 1,000 people, and how many people actually came up to her who she'd never met, never seen, never interacted with, and was like, oh my God, you're Lisa's staff. I follow you on Instagram. I'm so excited to meet you. And literally for 4 or 5 minutes, she sat there basically, these people were just in awe of this presence of who she is.
And then they were disappointed. They're like, you don't look like you do on your Instagram feed.
But the point is they found her on Instagram and something she talked about resonated with them, and they have become fans and followers of her content. It's
a community. It really is. I've been going through, not to say, but I've been going through security at the London airport and I had someone yelling out my name. It was someone else that I followed and she followed me, and I'm like, that's really cool. And you've had that happen too.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It's crazy.
It's a community.
It's a community. And honestly, I have generated business from just random conversations at coffee shops with people that found me on Instagram or had seen me on Instagram, and I ended up shooting their wedding 6 months later. So we've kind of talked about all this. I'm not going to go into the details because I think we're just kind of running out of time.
And we're available for questions after too, like if you ever want to connect with us.
Yeah, I highly encourage you, and I put our handles in the comment board. Please follow us. We'll follow you back. and then we can talk. You can DM us. All of our content information is in our profile, so you can send us text messages or however. We're very open, and I'm very good at responding, as is Lisa. All right, so we've talked about content, we've talked about strategy. What I encourage you, and this was Cassandra's question, what does your content, the voice you're using, the content you're posting, the strategy you're using, what does it say about your brand? Are you trying to speak to other people's preferences, or are you trying to speak to your preferences and the things that you're really good at?
Because there's people that talk a lot about knowing who your avatar is. And we met with a client last week. We've spoken with him again. And we're like, well, who is your perfect client? He's like, well, everyone that drives down this highway is my client. Well, maybe, but you still need to narrow it down and speak to that avatar. Maybe not just that person, but you have to kind of know who your client is.
Yeah, again, I go back to the adage, if you're trying to speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. So if you were to walk into a crowded room of a bar and you started talking about your message, and let's say there's 100 people in that bar and they had your audience, I can guarantee you that not all 100 of those people are you going to resonate with. Right? You might resonate with 60 of them, and 60 of them might love something of what you said. Maybe there's a half of you on this conference today. I see there's 100 people or so. Maybe 30 of you are going to be like, these people don't know what they're talking about. And it's the same way.
It's like being in high school again.
and that might be the case. Again, you're probably not my audience. If I had a chance to talk to you privately and show you some of the data and some of the stuff we do, I might be able to change that. But I'm going to focus on the people that really resonated with me first, because they're going to be the low-hanging fruit if I'm trying to sell to them, if I'm trying to get my product out to them, if I'm trying to promote for you. I want people who really dig my content, who really dig my voice, who really dig my platform, to see it and be inspired by it and come to me and be like, hey, I'd like more of this, more of this. I'm not going to sit there and try to convince somebody who is a complete polar opposite of me and has no idea what I'm talking about, and I'm not going to sit there and get into an argument with them about why you should use Instagram. People are entitled to their principles, and I respect that. So I try to TikTok them. So I stay in my lanes. Okay, so raising your brand. Just can you quickly kind of high level these?
I'm going to start with stay active, because I think that's the one thing that we talked about as well. Showing up, being consistent, responding to comments. It's like you always say, it's like having a conversation with someone. If someone comes up to you and starts talking to you and you just ignore them, it's not so good.
Yeah, well, here's the funny thing. Let's just pretend that you're rude or you're an introvert and you don't like to talk to people, period. If you want to have any sort of efficacy, I use that word again, on Instagram, you have to play by their rules. You have to be relatively conforming to the rules of the game, or they kick you out of the game by bumping you into the bottom of the feed. That's a fact. If you don't play by the rules of Instagram, which are being authentic, being relevant, staying active, consistently posting, whether it's 3 times a week, whether it's 5 times a week, or 7 times a week, they will literally bump you down into the feed, and your content will never be seen no matter how good it is. So you could be the best damn photographer in all of the world and post the most beautiful photos ever, but if you're not engaging with the community, if you're not commenting on other people's feeds, if you're not responding to your comments, if you're not being consistently posting, Instagram's going to say, hey, they're not playing by the rules. Push them out. And that's literally a fact. And your feed, dare I say, has to look relatively good. Mm-hmm. And again,
and if you're a photographer, you're probably a little OCD like we are. So that falls into your realm of what you like to do anyways. You want that to look like your brand. So, you probably follow certain accounts too that you're like, I love the look of that account. You might mimic some of them, but it's got to be your look as well. So pick a look, pick a theme that you really like that resonates with you. Yours is totally different than mine. I visually need to see things a certain way. You visually need to see them another way. And that's why you have some fantastic clients that I don't have.
Yeah, again, it's all about staying in your lane, finding some quality, understanding what your value proposition is, and trying to build towards that. And we realize that everybody does the best they can with the tools at their disposal. So don't expect that you have to have the most brilliant account overnight. Don't be afraid to play with things. Don't be afraid. to be active. Don't be afraid to experiment with doing voice Instagram lives or recording audio bites or recording video bites. See what resonates. Poke and prod, and you'll eventually start to find the things that work for you. But the most important element, and someone just asked me a question, they said they're on overload. Yeah, it's overwhelming. I get it.
You can only do so much.
Which is why we presented 5 or 6 of the most critical elements, which we'll share with you on how to be strategic about this so that you're not on overload.
Okay, and you don't necessarily need to follow all these things. This is just some information. Knowledge is power. Like some of the things that we've heard lately are things that we've said, heck no, we're not doing that. Like people are saying it's better if things are more raw and just kind of put it out there. I'm never, as a photographer, I'm never just going to put images out there that are like I just blasted off on my cell phone. And I'm not going to post that. That just doesn't fit. If someone's hiring a photographer, if they're hiring me, I want it curated in a certain way. But maybe in your stories, maybe you're doing things. The last few days as we've been videoing, every time I walk up to a door, it's locked. And that's kind of been my thing lately. Like that will go on my stories because that's just kind of a goofy thing that happens. It won't go into my feed though.
That's a great point. So, and again, that's a conscious choice that we make as creators on what we post. And so, again, this is your feed. This is your personal TV channel, if you will, where you get for the first time to tell your version of the world through your eyes, how you see it, and what you might want to share with other people. So we're going to take a TO and answer a few questions here. Vicky says, so I do CrossFit. Do I talk about that on my business page, even though it's really not something that my ideal clients are going to care about? So my answer to that would be does it fit within your pillars of what you're trying to sell? If you're a photographer, Vicky, I would say maybe your ideal client might be photographing CrossFit people. Maybe there's gym owners who need to get some branding and some marketing content out there. So why not speak about it? If you're a CrossFit gym, why not approach your gym owner and say, hey, I've never really dabbled into CrossFit photography before. Would you want to do some sort of a collaboration with me where we gather some of the athletes that are in here and we can do some sort of a collaboration? And you might find that your new niche is going down the fitness level. I don't know that it may or may not. But what I would focus on are things that you care about, things that you're good about, and things that you're a subject matter expert on in your field or in your area. Maybe you're a fantastic cook and you want to show how you make these great vegan recipes. Go for it.
I like as well that I think someone that does CrossFit, it says something about their commitment, their energy level, like how involved they are. So yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so
what days of the week do you post? We post every day.
Every single day. I'm about 5 days a week because I usually don't post 7 days a week.
Sometimes not on the weekends, but usually just once a day.
I calendar for 7. If I miss a couple of days, which I do, because like this week we were filming all week, I just push my content forward. So I think I didn't post on Sunday because we were filming. I didn't post on Saturday because we were filming. And so I push my content forward into Monday, and that's how it works for me.
And what times of the day? Now we're different on this. You really look, because we have business accounts, you can look at in your analytics and see what day and what times are the best. I just post in the morning and just get it done. So I post based upon, I look at my data and I see when I have the most number of viewers and I post on that. We're running out of time, so we'll try to answer some questions. We're not going to get to all this, so that means And Bonnie, do it. Get back in the saddle.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll find, Bonnie, as you get back into the saddle, that your traction will be slow at first. Just know that going in. But the more you are consistent about it, the more you are strategic about it, the more your 5 followers or your 10 followers are going to start to see that and realize that you're actually back in the saddle, writing and planning and posting, and then they'll start to follow.
You can posts and stories.
Stories for me, excuse me, this coffee is awful. Stories for me are a backbone. Man, we're out of time. Stories for me are a supporting output for my feed. I also use stories to talk more about my personal stuff. I use it for shout outs, all those different things. So my stories support my content on my feed. They support my content, and we're going to go into stories at the end if we have
And some things might not fit into your feed, but they fit into your stories. Plus, a lot of people only look through the stories and then they'll go into your feed. So keep something going on there.
Yeah, so stories confuse you. Kelly, here's my take on stories. They're your personal TV channel. They give you an outlet to talk about all sorts of stuff. I use mine to promote other people. I use it to promote my blog. I use it to promote my upcoming events. I put IGTV.
Behind the scenes of stuff that
Behind
I
the
shot. I'll put
scenes.
that there because people like that, or they're gonna laugh out of it or whatever.
All right, so we're going to run out of time on here, but let's talk about captions. So I see a lot of people posting content out there, and they'll post a brilliant photo, but they don't put any language in the post of itself. And unless you're a massive account that has millions of followers or several 100,000 followers, and you are a celebrity, I highly encourage you for every single post to answer a couple of questions in the post. Maybe, why did you take this photo? Why did this photo matter to you? What was it about this photo that resonated with you? What do you think other people might get out of this photo if you post it? Spend some time writing out a caption.
Keep it engaging. Ask a question that somebody's going to see that and they're going to follow up. Or tag other people in that you shot at that location or you're collaborating with that person. Make sure that they're all involved in that too.
So I put a couple of bullet points on here for me and what I do with my posts. I mix mine up between long posts and short posts because I'm a little long-winded, if you can't tell. And I end up being a little long-winded in the way I write, if you can't tell. If you follow my feed, you'll see what I mean. So I intentionally will put, like, some posts will just be a quick quote, or some posts will be really long and I'll talk about what inspired me or what happened to me, all those sorts of things. But kindle emotion, develop trust, provide something that's somewhat inspiring for other people, and then you'll start finding that you'll build an audience.
We had someone that we were both following, and every time we went on their feed, it was depressing. It was a rant about something. Keep it positive. Be the light when they're going through their feed.
You said something earlier, Lise, about other people accounts and other accounts that you follow. So one of the things that I think would be really important to keep in your mind, think about who you follow. Don't necessarily follow their strategy, but maybe you can start to emulate some of the things that they do based upon your own unique take on it. And ask yourself the question, what is it about Lisa's content that resonates with me? Well, when I first met her, what resonated with her about me is I had always wanted to travel. But I grew up poor. I come from 11 brothers and 12 brothers and sisters. I never got a chance to vacation anywhere. And all my life I've been working, and so I've never really taken the time. I have 2 daughters, and so I never really took the time to travel because I didn't think it was important. I didn't realize its impact. But one of the things that really resonated with me with Lisa, and if you look at her feed, she travels all over the planet, is she travels. And I was like, holy shit, that's really cool. I want to do that. And so I started following her. Someone say you heard me because we lost connection for a minute. Can somebody type in? Okay, cool. All right.
There's some people that maybe in their stories, maybe they have a following of people that like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, and they'll put little things in there, things that are like relevant to celebrity status and things like that. Those are things you can put in your stories if that's the people that follow you.
Okay, so we've already talked a little bit about stories and IGTV. This in of itself is a complete workshop. We'll try to kind of scan through this as quickly as we can because we're running out of time.
It's so like IG's YouTube.
So keep in mind, this is normally a 3-day workshop that we're giving you all right now. We normally literally do this in a 3-day workshop, and we're condensing this down into 60 minutes. So I realize it's overwhelming, so I apologize. All right, did we talk about what you use for IGTV? Did you want to just kind of quickly talk about it here?
We try to use that as much as possible. The last few restaurants that we just went to, we will curate videos for that. We will put it into our IGTV. We will take that IGTV, we will put it into our feed. So there's a preview in our feed. We will link it into our stories and have our stories link back to that so that it's just kind of like a circle that hopefully a lot of people will see it. And then we will tag as many people as we can that were involved in that too. So it's community.
Don't over tag.
No. But I'm saying tag. If we shot at this location, at this restaurant, it was a fabulous like the fabulous bartender that was helping us with all the food selections and everything like that, and the restaurant group that was on there. We make sure we tag all those people.
So tag relevant people that are associated with the story.
And when we've had specific occasions where we've gone out and we've had another photographer shoot us, yes, put that in, because that's not a selfie that we took.
Absolutely. Give people credit where credit is due. You'll be blown away at how much other people appreciate, especially if you have a bigger presence. This might sound vain, but I have a larger presence than most people in my community in the photography world. And I'm doing a lot more things than just photography. And you'll be surprised how grateful people are and how much that serves as a spark plug for a collaboration or a future collaboration or a referral or something. Like the hair and makeup artist, for example, or maybe the small venue, or maybe there's an officiant there that just got into Instagram and you tagged them and you posted a really cool photo of them. I have literally gotten phone calls from officiants or DJs who were like blown away that I had taken the time to tag them in a photo. And guess what? They end up becoming your fans because they see that you're a team player, that you're part of the community, and people want to be part of that. In the end, we all want to be part of something, right? We're a community-based species.
And honestly, like I live in a very small community. So this small community, like we have cultivated relationships where, you know, someone is busy doing X amount of family shoots during the week, and she'll call me up and say, you know what, I don't want to do 5 a week. And I'm like, hey, throw some my way, I'll take some.
Fantastic. Okay, so I think we're getting towards the end of our slide deck, but we just wanted to kind of recap a lot of what we talked about. And the crux of most of all of this is these points up on the screen, that Instagram is no different than being in the office or being at a happy hour or going out with your favorite friends on the weekend. It's a community, it's a connection, and you're creating content that resonates with all of those people. You wouldn't be in a bar, or you wouldn't be at a party, or you wouldn't be in a social situation and walk up to somebody you really liked or somebody you really wanted to meet and just be like, oh, hey, Lisa, I'm Devo. And then Lisa turns her head and walks away.
I do that too all the time.
But the point is that the more you engage with people, and that means going out and commenting, you should have a strategy around commenting, and that's a whole different workshop. The more you respond to every single comment you get. It's like turning your head and saying, hey, you don't matter. If somebody took the time to come out on your feed and write a comment, respond back.
As quickly as possible, too.
If for no other reason, think about this. How many people are on Instagram? There's several million on Instagram. If you post a comment on someone else's feed that might have a larger following than you, how many more people that are on following that person are going to be inclined to see your comment had you not put a comment? Do you know how many people I have picked up as clients or as business or some sort of collaboration that saw me post a comment on someone else's feed, saw the comment, and came back and engaged with me? And that right there is the crux of what Instagram is. It's a community aggregator of interactions.
Can I just say as well, I think all of us are probably really hard on ourselves. Like, my work isn't good enough. Look what they're doing. I'm not doing that. We are all good enough, and we're content creators. So if you're not sure what to post, go through what you have, and you'll be surprised. We have literally thousands and thousands of pictures, don't we? We all have that. There's stuff in there that's good enough to post. And I was speaking to a friend, I was trying to go through some of her Instagram with her, and I've gone out and I've filmed her before as she's been shooting. She is incredible at doing family shots. I look at what she does and how she connects, and I think, I never thought of doing it that way. She does it in a certain way that she just excels at it. And she was saying to me, like, I don't think my work is good enough. I don't have enough to post. And it's like, you know what, girl, you do. You have a ton of stuff. You just look through your content. You're content creators. Most people are stealing images from other people and posting something. We're the people that actually have those images, right? They're using someone else's images and making it into a meme. You're the content creator, so just start getting it out there. Your work is by far good enough, and you have enough already without having to go out and create more right now.
Yeah, so Vicki, thank you for the compliment. You know what? Here's my response to that. A, thank you. But B, the grass is always greener, right? There's always somebody that's bigger, better looking, more physically fit. There are people that there's
a filter on this.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm physically pleasing to the eyes, thank you. But you know how many people make a living at being a model who are gorgeous men, gorgeous women, who are considerably better looking, more fit, etc., considerably more popular, yada, yada, yada. That's not the game I'm playing. So what I encourage you to think about when you get into the Instagram, if you choose to play the Instagram game, if you choose to be part of the equation, you have to get over some fears. You have to realize that your message, your brand, whatever it might be, is unique to somebody. And your take on your value proposition is completely unique to you. You're better at something than I am. Maybe it's a type of photography. Maybe it's you love to cook. Maybe it's something that you're better at. Maybe you're really esoteric and have these deep, brilliant thoughts, but you've always been scared to share them with anyone. Hey, what do you have to lose? Like, literally, what do you have to lose? Here's my thought process on that. If you can help someone, if you can inspire someone, if you can change someone's life, if you can make a difference in one person's life through what your message is, whether it's compelling, whether it's inspirational, whether it's brutally honest, maybe your story is you're an overweight male who got divorced and became a lazy, sodden dude who sat on his sofa. I have to keep it clean. I have no filter, so I got to keep it clean. Who just sits on his sofa all day long, and you decided one day to wake up and get into a weight loss regime and go out there and just blow up the world with your new brand of fitness. Talk about it. Because I guarantee you, on the planet of, 5.5 billion people, somebody else has the exact same problem as you. And people don't care about how beautiful you are. People care about how transparent, how vulnerable you are, and how truthful and honest and candid you might be. And if you consistently tell that message, and if you stay true to form to what your brand is, to what you really give a damn about, you're gonna find somebody who you resonate with. And then that someone is gonna tell someone else, and it's called the compound effect. And it just grows, and it multiplies, and it multiplies, and before you know it, you're doing something in somebody's life that made a difference. And that would be my answer to that. Yes, it's a good idea, Rocco, to do business and personal. I think you might have come in late. We're running out of time. I don't think we're going to have enough time to talk about hashtags. This is in of itself an entirely different workshop. Here's my point on hashtags. Use them. Be very specific and narrow about them. Create your own and use them in every post. And try to stay in the smaller range of data in terms of hashtags. So let me see if I can encapsulate this in a really simple manner.
You're not going to do photo of the day or outfit of the day or anything.
Yeah, okay, correct. So let's say you have a little small pool. Like, you know those little pools you buy at Walmart when you were a kid? I don't know about half of you, but my only pool I ever had was this little type of pool we bought at Kmart back in the day. And 12 of us would jump into the pool and swim, like, truthfully. And there was no room, right? There was 12 people. But as soon as people would get out of the pool, there'd be fewer and fewer people in the pool, and you could kind of like stretch out and kind of like maybe you're closer with one of your sisters and you can talk to your sister and hang out in the pool, right? So hashtags are kind of similar to that, right? There's 7 million people posting content using hashtags. You want your hashtag to be more likely to be found because it's playing in a smaller pool with less people. If you do the hashtag love and you look at it in your Instagram, you'll see that 1.6 million people use that hashtag today. You're very unlikely to be found using the hashtag love because everyone else is using it. Use hashtags that are unique. My general rule of thumb is I try to stay under the 100,000 range, and I'll use 1 or 2 bigger ones, but I typically try to stay into the smaller range, and I use very unique hashtags that are very specific to my market, my business, and the type of person I'm trying to go after.
And I've gotten work from my hashtags. Like, again, I'm in a smaller community. I'm in Hilton Head, but people will hashtag Hilton Head photographer, and there's some of us that pop up under that. So use that. Be very specific as to maybe where you are, what you're doing, and that works as well.
I picked up a sponsor who is one of my, I'm an ambassador for now, who saw one of my smoothie posts that I did in stories with my daughters, who make smoothies every morning before school, and they reached out to me and wanted to know if I would like to be an ambassador for them. And so that's how I became a sponsor, because I had used healthy hashtags around creating smoothies. They found me on a hashtag, and now I'm an ambassador for them. So you just never know. I have a hat. You know that. Nice. All right. So let me just see if there's any comments, because we literally are running out of time. General Rule, Michael Maria. They used to say use all 30. I don't know that a specific number is applicable, and you'll hear differing accounts on this. I use anywhere from 11 to 20. And the reason I use 11 to 20 is because I'm very refined in what I use for hashtags. And there's lots of apps that you can buy. You can aggregate your hashtags in a spreadsheet and use them over and over so you don't have to keep researching them. But my general rule of thumb is 11 to 20. That's what I'll do in every post.
And if you're using something like Planoly and you've got your pillars and you're going to post wedding and you're going to post senior portraits or whatever, you can generate hashtags for those and keep those little folders so that you're not doing it every time and trying to put them in. You just copy paste, put them in.
Okay, so we're at the end of our slide. I feel compelled to say this because I've seen so many comments on here how people are overwhelmed. We do this for a living. We do workshops, we do retreats. We're actually getting ready to launch our retreats. We do one-on-one consultation, and we can help you actually manage your entire page. So if this is something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to us privately. We can have a conversation on how that works, what it looks like. I think Dave and Michelle, that's the end of our presentation. I hope we didn't go too fast. I know it's a lot of information. Like I said, we do this normally over 3 days. So I guess at this point, should we turn this back over to you guys, and then we can just,
First of all, Devo and Lisa, amazing.
Yes,
Power
bravo.
packed, brilliant, great job. I know everybody really enjoyed it. We also kind of watched, and we saw that the number of people that watched were staying on it stayed all the way through. That says your content was right on the mark. So you guys did a great job. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And for those of you that are on right now, we will be playing a replay. We'll put this up on our site here in a few days. And I don't know, what do you guys think? Should we have these guys back?
Yes. I'm all game. You know, when Devo and I spoke briefly when we were planning this webinar presentation, and when he kind of threw out some ideas of what him and Lisa were going to talk about with Instagram, he told me a story, and the story was about a young girl who had been following him on social media, Instagram, for some time. And she knew right away after watching him for all those years that when she got older and she was to get married, she was booking Devo, and that was it. That was the final word. So, you know, your clients are always watching. Your peers are always watching. And so with Instagram, you know, you just want, like they said, you want to be relevant. You want to show who you are and what you do. And that wins over clients over and over.
Great. Thank you for that story. And thank you guys for sharing and being so transparent. You're helping the whole photography community get better. And that's what we're all about. So thank you so much. And thank you guys for attending, and catch up with you soon.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you, Dave. And thank you for everybody for listening to us. I'm sorry we ran through that so quickly. It's overwhelming. Can I just close with this one thought, if you don't mind? It's overwhelming. It was overwhelming to me when I first started down this journey. I highly encourage you to utilize some of the 5 or 6 different main points in this category to bring your thoughts and your processes together so you can be strategic about it. And if you put the work in on the front end of this process, just like your business, just like your life, just like your fitness workout, or whatever it is you do, if you put the work in at the front side and you stick to it strategically and you follow the rules that you've laid down for yourself, you'll start to make traction. And like anything else, that ideation around it will become a reality. I know that sounds insane right now to think about it because you're just getting started and we just bamboozled you with so much data, but stick with your process. Find something that works for you. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to play around. This is your story. Your Instagram is this is your life and your story. Don't be afraid to tell your unique take on what you really care about. And the more you do that, the more you're going to start to find that your clients will see that, it will resonate with them, and they'll be coming to you. And that would be my closing thought. And
it might just be a Sunday afternoon that you sit down, and maybe you're not going to post every day. Maybe you're going to have, in that month, 20 images. pull out 20 images, some that shoot, show weddings, some that show all the other pillars. So a couple on each, write something for them, or just even have those images, and as the thoughts resonate, you can be posting them. It's not as overwhelming once you start pulling out images and looking at how fantastic your work is.
Don't be afraid to DM us. I'm fantastic. I don't ever answer the phone. Sorry. So don't call me, DM me, or text me. I'm brilliant at responding to text messages. I will answer any questions you have, and happy to engage in a sidebar conversation with you.
Absolutely.
Cheers to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.